Hey guys! So, for the past few weeks, I've been keeping a sketchbook more regularly. I was looking back at some of my old sketchbooks, and I realized that I really missed the consistency that I used to have with them. I drew this little sketch of this praying mantis lady. I don't know if you guys know about praying mantises. I don't know that much about praying mantises, but one thing that I do know is that many times the female praying mantises will eat the male praying mantises. They will, for lack of a better term, fall in love, and then following their brief affair, the female praying mantis will eat the male praying mantis. So I had this idea that it's like this kind of, it's this cool woman praying mantis, and she has all of the heads of her ex-lovers around her neck. Before I even painted it, I showed this idea to a few people in my family and a few people that I know, and they had mixed reactions to the concept. Some people were like not weird, some people were like a bit apprehensive about it, but I decided to go through with it anyway. Usually when I create a painting, I start immediately in color because for me, color can be the most exciting part of the painting. Figuring out how the different colors interact with each other, figuring out what color palette I want to use, just experimenting with color is exciting for me. But for this illustration, I decided to start with grayscale and then convert into color because I wanted to focus a lot on the values. I noticed that I was much more cautious in the process of making this. Usually I create things very quickly and I try not to think about them very much, but while I was making this piece, I thought about every single shadow and highlight that I put down. I loved the original sketch so much that I kind of had the mentality, I just don't want to mess this up during the process of creating a full painting from it. I had a vision in my head ahead of time, like I wanted it to have sort of this fantasy feeling to it. There are certain artists that kind of inspired me. I will put pictures of their art on the screen. At this point in the illustration, I started adding in some more shadows, blocking them in both with a hard brush and also a soft brush. So like I knew I wanted some harder shadow shapes on the underneath of the hair so that it'd be very crisp and angular. Whereas on the bridge of the nose, I knew I wanted it to be a soft shadow. And I really liked the way that that shadow came out, the slow gradient from the end of the nose up. I'm definitely one of those people that loves to layer on like the blush and really bring out the blushing of skin. And in the case of this character, it's not going to be, because the skin will be green, it's not going to be blushing like how a human colored skin would, but I still wanted to have a blush effect to it, like a blush gradient. One of the most difficult things for me in this piece was getting the reflections to a place where I was happy with them on the collar. I decided to, in the end, go for maybe like a slightly more brushed metal effect than super shiny, but originally, and still, I think that the super shiny look would be even better, but I just was struggling to get exactly the effect that I wanted with it, so I decided to go for more of this like brushed effect. For reference images, I gathered together all sorts of things. Firstly, I got a few different images of models that had the sort of feeling that I wanted. Then I gathered together pictures of extravagant jewelry and like goth jewelry and big chunky jewelry. Then I gathered together some references of hair and different hair textures. It was kind of difficult to find exactly the hair reference that I was looking for, and I don't know anybody with the hairstyle that I was going for, so I couldn't shoot any of my own reference for it. So I spent a lot of time looking for a picture that sort of had like the underneath of the hair, which is something that I feel like isn't captured a lot in images of hair, especially on like Pinterest. But yeah, I used Pinterest to gather together all of my references. Pinterest is currently my favorite place to look for reference. I know that it's a lot of artists' favorite place, or at least a place that they use a lot to gather reference. The algorithm on Pinterest is just amazing. I designed all of the heads that are around her neck to be similar in shape, but very slightly different in design. So, you know, some are more slightly more angular designs on them. They all have slightly different textures and values so that they're similar, but different from one another. At this point in the illustration, I added in the first round of color. So I created a color layer, like the blending mode color, and then put down green because I knew for sure I wanted that to be the base. And then I went back in and erased over areas that I didn't want to have any color aside from like the gray that everything was. So like the jewelry and stuff like that. Then I started adding in gradients of red. Then I started adding in gradients of blue. I chose greens that were slightly more yellow for the eyes of both of the heads around the neck and the primary mantis eyes. During this phase, I just tried all different blending modes. That's my favorite way to work, is just like trying everything and seeing what works. Then I added color dodge layers, which is always fun because it totally changes the entire appearance of the piece, and you can start to get an idea of where your light source is going to be exactly. So yeah, color dodge layers mixed with add layers, and also some soft light layers. Is that what it's called? Soft light? I think. Around this point in the process is where I started adding in the brightest highlights. So this would be in places like on the top of the hair because I wanted the hair to appear shiny. It's also on the bridge of the nose to make that sort of middle ridge that I've created a lot more prominent and clear. I was looking at reference images of beetles and also just praying mantises. I wanted to have that shiny effect that the exoskeleton of bugs has, so I was replicating that with these brighter highlight areas. Did you know that there are 2,000 types of mantid species worldwide? That is so many. The majority of mantid species are found in Asia. Only about 20 species are native to the US. That's still a lot. One time I found a praying mantis outside of my house. The praying mantis is a notorious predator, and their name is sometimes mistakenly spelled praying mantis, which doesn't make any sense audibly, but yes. They are not named for their predatory behavior, they are named for their prayer-like stance, because they believe in Jesus. A detail that I decided to add on later in the piece was a little extra necklace underneath the larger necklace. It's a little upside-down cross, just to kind of invoke the idea that like she's like satanic or something, but she's not even necessarily satanic, I just thought it fit the vibe. At this point in the process, I discovered a really cool trick. So I love adding overlays of textures on all of my digital pieces, just as many textures as I can. And I have this one texture, which is a brush, that creates this watercolor bloom effect. So it looks as if you have dropped like droplets of watercolor on a page and then they spread out. You know how watercolor like frays out? Well, I took that and I put it in a red color over the top of the entire character, and I don't remember the exact blend mode, but it was I think it was like multiply or something dark, and I lowered the opacity, and it created this look of veins underneath the skin. And I don't know, this is like a breakthrough for me. I feel like this would be perfect for an alien. This piece in general is already like somewhere in between like a bug and an alien, I'd say. Yeah, I really liked that effect. Also, you'll notice in the beginning, there are these sort of droplets coming down from the top that are like particles that surround her, and I knew I wanted to have some kind of particles surrounding the character, but I wasn't super happy with how they were turning out. They were originally like supposed to be like droplets of blood, and I just didn't aesthetically like how they were turning out, so towards the end I decided to change them more into like fractals and like glitched effects. And then I even put little like symbols mixed in. You'll see later like there's like X's, there's like little bug symbols, there's little like made up symbols, and I like how that looked a lot better. Yeah, so just a few more finishing touches here and there, tweaking all of the highlights, brightening the painting up overall, and our seductive alien praying mantis, murderer, evil, like but cool, and praying mantis lady was complete. I am going to be selling prints of her on my website, so be sure to go and check that out, and buy yourself or someone you know this print if you would like. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter for daily art things, and also follow me on TikTok, because I do like TikTok. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to help support me in my endeavors. And yeah, leave a comment of what you think. If you liked the illustration, leave a comment like that. If you hated it, you could leave like a hate comment or something. I haven't got like a proper hate comment yet, so like, there's always the opportunity for that. You could be my first hate comment.